Carpet.
Welcome back to the next big pod, episode 75. We've had another change of management this time. I'm going to give hosting a bash for a while, see how we get on. We've got, unfortunately, Press Pass is still about. We've got Ainsley, who's been reinstated. Andy Pops will be back later on again. And we've got the UK's favourite commentator, Big Si Clayton.
Evening.
Nice to have you on eventually, Si.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this, mate. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, I think.
Yeah, hopefully you make a good impression. The listeners are fickle, so be careful. You might get abused later on. Everyone else seems to. They don't like Press Pass, so...
Yeah, I don't know what I've listened to it before. I think he's all right, yeah.
That makes one of us. Right, anyway, we're going to start off with a big fight on the weekend, which was Kovalev Ward. Obviously, Ainsley's got strong opinions about everything, but he's got a very strong opinion about this, so I'll go straight to you. What do you think of the fight and the scoring?
I don't think the fight was that good. Everyone's like going mad over it. I wasn't that impressed. I hate Ward. Can't be arsed to watch him. He's just like, I think he's really negative. Like, really negative, and his clinching was more than excessive. I don't think he won.
So you know what? I was going to get into this a bit later on about who you think won and whatnot. So just talk about the fight, if you will, for the time being.
Yeah, Kovalev obviously started very, very well. What was it? First round, hit him with a jab. Closest round, but I think you can say it with Kovalev. And then I think it's obviously second round was pretty clear, but he seemed to shake it off quite quickly. Ward, when he got up, he didn't seem to hurt for any period of time. But Kovalev stopped sort of. He didn't seem to like go for the kill like he has in the past. Seems to be a bit more patient. But then after about round 5, it started to go a bit south for him for a little bit. Ward had a better second half of the fight, but I think, what was it, rounds 9 and 11? I think of the two that stick out for Ward, where he dicked on him a little bit, but obviously...
Well, we're getting to round 10 later on, because I know we have different opinions about that.
Yeah, and then like that, I think round 12 was quite close. Like the back end of the fight, a lot of close rounds. But for the early part of the fight was pretty evidently Kovalev, I wouldn't say dominating, but he was winning rounds clearly.
Yeah, if you look at it as a fight of two halves, like the first 6 rounds and the second 6 rounds, there's clear winners in both, I would say. Kovalev easily pissed the first half of the fight, and Ward and Nick the second half, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
But, Si, did you get a chance to watch this? I know you was at the Matty Askin fight, weren't you?
Yeah, I caught it when I got in. I thought it was a better fight than what Ainsley said. I thought it was all right. I just think it's what we're used to now as well, innit? I think it's been a shite year on the old. So yeah, I thought it was an all right fight. I had Kovalev winning by 2 rounds. I've not watched it back, if I'm honest. I was a little bit tired watching it, but yeah, I thought it was all right. But Kovalev won it for me, pretty much like you said. I think he won his rounds clearer than what Ward pinched his rounds. But you still win a round, don't you?
See, now I actually thought it was not a really good fight, but a good fight. I was on the edge of my seat at all times because, obviously Kovalev's got the power in his hands to just end the fight at any point. So it kept me interested for that reason, mainly that reason, because the second half wasn't as good as the first half, but he was just thinking, perhaps if Kovalev can clip him again, he's going to go. So I really did enjoy it. I can appreciate tactical fights like that, and I can appreciate wars. I don't... Like Press Pass in the chat, I'll bring him in now. What did you think of it, Press Pass? Because when you was watching it live, you said you didn't enjoy it.
I thought it was okay. Obviously, when I watched it for the first time, I fell asleep and woke up 3 rounds in. So the first time around, I set my alarm, I was gutted, and I got up too late. But when I watched it, from what I saw, was obviously mostly what I call the Andre Ward rounds that he won. And I thought the fight was okay. I didn't think it was great. I didn't think it was bad. It was what I expected it in a lot of ways. I think that it was very technical. It was the number of punches that both guys threw were very low. And both guys never seemed to really land anything significant from that second round onwards. When I watched it first time, like I said, I didn't score it. So I found it quite interesting seeing obviously I couldn't score it. I missed 3 rounds. I find it quite interesting.
It's never stopped
That,
yet.
that doesn't stop some people from scoring fights that there's no footage of, but we won't go into that. But yeah, so I didn't really score it, but I found it quite interesting because from what I saw, I thought Andre Ward probably would have nicked it. But I had to bear in mind the fact that most people said that he lost the first few rounds. When I watched it back properly, then the following morning, trying to block out the Sky commentary and everything else, and also being half awake does help. I scored it 114, 113 to Kovalev. I thought that Ward really managed to turn the fight around in the second half, purely because stylistically that didn't look like any Kovalev fight I've ever watched before. Whereas Ward was making him deal with the clinches, landing little pocket jabs inside. There was no real clean, hard punches from Ward landed, but it was sloppy and it was a bit crude. And I think that suited Ward more than it suited Kovalev, who obviously just wanted to be able to exchange and let his hands go. The scoring argument stuff we won't get into now, but like I said, it's quite interesting. It's all to do with how you read a fight. And I think, was it a classic? No. But was it? This is what kind of happens when you get guys who are literally 50-50. It was billed as it was billed as a 50-50 fight. I remember, do you remind him of a little bit until the knockout was, the Froch Groves rematch. It was literally jab for jab. There was nothing really clear until obviously the big stoppage. So when fights are that even and guys that evenly matched, this is what happens. We're just so used to week in and week out watching one overmatched guy get absolutely banjoed by another. So when you finally this is what will happen, I think, with a lot of the best fights in divisions. It happened with Mayweather Pacquiao. It happened with a lot of them because losing is such a negative for these guys that they will just box safe. Andre Ward could have made that really exciting, but it's just not his style. It's just not what he's ever going to do. And the onus was on Kovalev really to push the action, which he tried in the first few rounds and it worked and he got that big lead. But down the stretch, I think unlike the Hopkins fight where he imposed himself more as it went on, I felt that he faded a little bit and Ward got the better of the late rounds.
Partly the reason why Ward was allowed to piss the second half of the fight was there was no cutting off the ring from Kovalev at all. Just he was following him round, letting him go from corner to corner, slip shots, move, maybe clinch the odd body shot. I do think Kovalev won, but I can see why people score it to Ward. I don't think it was a robbery at all. I think it was a close fight. I mean, the cards are suspicious with all the 3 judges scoring it exactly the same. Kovalev hardly getting around in the second half of the fight, but that's neither here nor there. It was a close fight in my eyes.
But
hold on, let me just finish this. I want to say, like, Kovalev could have won that fight easier on my card anyway, just by maybe upping the pressure a little bit in them last few rounds, which he didn't. I've said this in the WhatsApp chat as well. The difference in the corner work, I know you don't get the whole 30 seconds minute in there with the Sky broadcast. I don't think you get it with the HBO one either. But from when it was on Kovalev's corner, there was no urgency from John David Jackson at all. It was all calm. Someone speaking Russian. You don't know what's being said. He could be saying you need these last few rounds for all we know, but I don't think he was. But in Andre Ward's corner, you got Virgil Hunter doing his motivational speaking, saying you need these last 3 rounds, you need this last round, go out and get it. And I kind of think that made a bit of a difference in the second half of the fight as well. Did you not notice anything similar to that? No urgency in the corner work?
I just thought Kovalev was pretty tired. I don't know if the weight fucks him a little bit. I know because he is big and he looks a lot bigger than Ward on the night. I don't know if he's has a bit of bother getting down to that now or what.
Well, there was another thing we've had. Shep and Dewey had an argument about that, didn't they? Shep said Kovalev was a small light heavyweight, and Dewey went, no, he's a big lad.
Well, he is. I've seen. I think he fought that idiot. Was it like Cedric Agnew or someone? And I think he might have missed it the first time, and he had to reweigh. But
anyway, let's get into your scorecard, Ainsley, because I know you've got it quite clear to Kovalev, haven't you?
I can't remember. I think I had it 8-4.
But you was one of the people that I've seen on Twitter going more mental than most, which is
but it's just
quite usual, really. But
yeah, but like, right. But if Ward would have won it, I would have been fine. But you couldn't find out of like the fucking thousands of people going on about it Saturday night, Sunday morning, there weren't 3 people that had the same scorecard. And then all of a sudden, there's 3 people there with the exact same. And there's 3 people who have all given Ward round 10, which was Kovalev's best round in the second half of the fight.
Press pass. Do you want to come in there? Because I know you've got Ward with round 10, haven't you?
Yeah, so again, that's quite a weird one. So when I watched it live and I tweeted after the round, that was Ward's best round of the fight. And then about 10 people responded going, what are you talking about? And then about 4 people responded going, yes, it was. And then when the judges' scorecards came out and they all gave it to him and they all gave Ward the 10th, I was sat there going, yeah, that's obviously what I saw. And then when I watched it back, it wasn't as clear as I remembered it, but I definitely saw that as a Ward round. So that's, I think, what makes my card as close as it is round 10. And a lot of people gave 10 to Kovalev, but I thought that was one of Ward's best rounds. This is the whole point of it being subjective. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I see that so differently to how Ainsley sees it.
I think Carpy mentioned that though because it was Ward was trying to, like I said, shoeshine the rounds. He was fucking about trying to like clown him a little bit in that round when he was trying to do a bolo punch and then just got caught with a jab, which was quite funny. But I don't know. I thought that was one that was quite easy to score.
What was the score with Malignaggi? Because he's coming for a load of shit round 10, hasn't he? What was that about?
We'll get to that fucking idiot.
Yeah, well, I'll get on to that in a bit because I've got an issue with the Box Nation coverage as well from Saturday. But at one point, Malignaggi tweeted someone saying, "Why are you talking shit? Say Usadar scored round 10 for Ward. What are you lying for?" And his scorecard was shown at the time saying that he'd give round 10 to Ward. But he also gave Ward 4 of the first 6 rounds. He gave Kovalev round 2 and a share around 10. So
did he had round 1 even as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
which I don't think personally. I don't see how you can give it an even round considering Ward was staggered with a jab.
But like, you know what it is with Malignaggi and stuff, because it happens with fighters. They always tend to levitate towards people who mirror their style a bit more. So like someone like Malignaggi is obviously going to just score everything for Ward because it's a bit more closer to what he'd do. But then, like, say, I don't know, not an exact one, but like a Triple G type, even though it's not the same, might score it like Kovalev way, if you know what I mean. That's not a great example, but I'm just...
In my opinion, anyway, fighters don't make good judges.
No.
You see it all the time with Sky, HBO. Their scorecards are always massively off compared to what everyone else has got. So I don't think they help anyone either. I don't really see how them putting a scorecard on the screen helps anyone understand the fight. If you watch boxing, you get a feel for who's winning. You know who's winning. You don't need...
Sorry, Sam. What was interesting, sorry, it was I always watch the bookies, look the late rounds and see how they have it in play. And the bookies really couldn't make their minds up. I think that Kovalev was the favourite as the final bell went, but it flip-flopped massively. And that's the thing. It's so many people saw it different ways. And like I said, the bookmakers are always an interesting one because obviously they follow the patterns. So people that are betting because they see the fight a certain way, whether they're posting scorecards or not, but they're seeing how it's going and they're putting their money on what they either think A is going to be a poor decision or B, they just see it very clearly to one fighter. I think that this term robbery in this fight is an absolute nonsense. How any fight, they say the widest scorecard for Kovalev's I've seen have been like 3 rounds. Well,
the Dougie Fisher's is like 6 points, isn't it?
Yeah, well, his card was crazy, and he was calling robbery afterwards. But that scorecard was massive. The word robbery is. We talked about this as well. The word robbery is Pacquiao Bradley. That's a robbery. The draw in the Mayweather Canelo fight. Those are robberies.
Even the fight before.
Oh my God! Yeah, the fight. We'll get on to that. But the fight before. I mean, that's a robbery. What we saw with this was a really difficult fight to score, and that's why I think that so many people have scored rounds differently. Even people that like the same style, or like I said, like people that were sat next to each other on the commentary booth. Sky and HBO are sat next to each other, and yet their scorecards were so wildly different. So,
yeah, but I think.
Hold on, I've got a question for Si now as a broadcaster. What feed did you watch it on, Si? Did you watch the Sky one?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched it on Sky.
Because obviously you dab your toe in a bit of commentating now and then. Do you think they're telling an accurate story of the fight, or do you think they've got a narrative and they're sticking to it no matter what?
I think what I think they call it how they see it early doors, and then I think they pretty much stick to it. And I don't think they come away from it. Use the word deviate earlier on. That I think pretty much that's how it is. I think they decide how they're going to score a fight. Like, I don't follow Shep, but I do read a bit of what Shep puts, and I think it's right what he puts. I think if they get a fight like that where they get somebody who goes 2 rounds up or 3 rounds up, I think they're desperate to get Like, so say Kovalev was 3 rounds up. I think they're desperate to give Ward a round. So as soon as Ward does anything that you could, remotely 50-50, remotely a close round, I think they want to give it to Ward so it kind of evens up the scorecards, because I've sat scoring fights in the past, and if you sit there and you get a fight that you've got somebody going 4 rounds up, you think, shit, is he really 4 rounds up? It's been quite a close fight. So, I mean, for me, Kovalev was, after 6 rounds, how many rounds would you have had Kovalev up? 4, I don't know, 3 or 4 rounds. But it's like people think, oh no, I can't have him 4 rounds up because it's quite a close fight. But for me, you should just score it round by round, and at the end of the 12 rounds, that's what you should be looking at. I think referees do the same thing. I think they score a fight. I think they score it I think it's in the back of everybody's mind how many rounds up they have one of the boxers, and it shouldn't matter. If you win that round, you win that round. At the end of 12 rounds, it's what your scorecard says.
Yeah, I want to revert back to another Ward fight with this, but obviously it wasn't him getting the rounds. Like the Froch Ward fight, he accumulated so many pity rounds in the back half of that fight just to narrow the scores.
Yeah, I think it's because like you kind of reward effort, but it's just reward who's scoring, reward who's landing punches, reward who's getting out of the way of punches. But it's like you to see a fight like that, it's like they've got to have the scorecards close, and it's like, if you clearly win a round and then you pinch a round, you've still won a round, haven't you? And I think Kovalev, I don't think Kovalev got. Well, did he get any of the close rounds with the judges?
No, and that's the issue most people have got in the back half of the fight. You didn't get any of the toss-up rounds, not one.
And I just think it's in the back of the judge's mind that they're constantly writing 10-9 down for Kovalev, and I think they put pressure on himself. And I know they hand the scorecards in at the end of every round, but I don't know. I just think it's in the back of the mind. So I've done it myself when I sit there scoring a fight. I think, shit, this is a close fight, but yet I've got him 5 or 6 rounds up. I'm going to have to give him a round, and it gets in the back of your mind. And I think that's what happens with the judge, and it definitely happens on Sky. You see it all the time on Sky when they're scoring a fight.
One thing I want to say about it, I don't think there was anything in it. American judges, American fighter. I don't think that plays a part, really.
I just think Vegas judges are quite bad.
Yeah, well, we've seen it over the years, haven't we? With obviously the one that sticks out in your mind more than anything else is a drawn card with Floyd and Canelo. I still, for the life of me, can't figure that out.
I just think that the judges got lucky that all those rounds were close-ish. Because I still think that would have ended up being scored that way, whether Kovalev won a couple of clear or not. That's just how I think. I don't think he's going to get that, but
we're going to get a rematch, hopefully. What do you all want to see it? Just say yeah or no, Si?
Yeah.
I thought you would, good man. Ainsley?
Yeah, I do know.
You do? And press pass?
Yeah, no rush, but yeah, eventually.
What do you mean no rush? See now, people like you make me sick. People like you make me sick. You sit there and moan day in, day out that we don't get any competitive fights. We don't get the best fight the best. We get the best fight the best in a decent enough fight, contentious decision, immediate rematch, and you start saying, "Oh, I don't really want to see it again." No rush.
No, I want to see it again, but like I say, it doesn't have to be the next fight. And I'll happily. They're both not like either of them are going anywhere.
Well, I think it needs to be next.
Yeah, if Ward doesn't do it next, that is never happening. But anyway.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if Ward runs away from it now, whether Ward thinks he got a gift and he doesn't want to touch the fight again. I'm not sure he will.
Well, he's contractually obliged, but we know contracts mean nothing because he took a dying man to court.
Yeah,
Ward is a prick, and if he can get out of this, he probably will. But anyway, who do you think wins the rematch? Because I think Ward wins the second one. I thought he'd win the first one, and I think he wins the second one.
Kovalev.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, mate. I think Ward wins it.
Yeah, I think Kovalev. Yeah, yeah. If you push me, I'd say Kovalev.
I don't see what Kovalev can do differently that Ward won't figure out again. Amesy, I know I got into you with this on WhatsApp, didn't I? And you said you think Kovalev might come out like Seek and Destroy. But I just think Ward will spoil him much quicker than he did.
I think if you take the knockdown, if you work on the assumption that Ward doesn't get dropped again, then Ward won it on most people's cards, and that 10-8 round was so massive. So if Ward stays on his feet and fights the same way he did the last 6 rounds, he'll win the rematch.
Yeah, but
then you could counter that by saying, will Kovalev fight the same way he did for the last 6 rounds? I think if you look into it deep, I think there's more Kovalev can do to adjust himself to win it than what Ward can do. Ward could only do what he did again, whereas Kovalev can improve. I just don't necessarily think he will.
But I don't think I don't know. I wasn't overly that impressed with Ward overall. Like he was very beatable on Saturday, but I don't know. I don't think that extra weight is too good for him, to be honest. But,
He does look small compared to a proper.
He's like, the thing is, look at the reaction that he had as well when the decision was announced. He didn't think he'd won that fight. Not a fucking chance.
Are you on about the GIF?
Yeah, but what? You see him. He looks like he's lost his dog, and then next minute he's like, he wasn't even like buzzing. He was just like surprised.
Looked like he found a tenner on the floor or something, didn't he? It was that sort of expression.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to it anyway. I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later. If it starts dragging on like Fury Klitschko 2 did, I just think it's not going to happen. I want to see it by like April or May at the latest. March, April would be best.
Got to be next year.
But moving on from this one, I don't want to talk about the undercard because it's absolute shit. Did any of you want to say anything briefly about it? Maybe.
I didn't watch any of the undercard fights. I just watched that one.
You dodged a bullet. Press pass.
The best fight on the undercard was the Cressy Shields fight, which is quite. That was quite a good scrap. I quite enjoyed it, and it's gave me a little bit of positive thinking ahead of Katie Taylor at the weekend.
Was that even televised? Because I didn't see that.
Ooh.
Shields, yeah, it was opened up, didn't it?
On Sky?
It was on Sky, was it?
No, it was on the stream in America from America. The undercard.
I was pretty sure that didn't make the televised broadcast, but there we go.
Yeah, the undercard was poor, but we knew that going into it. I mean, the people that won, we expected to win. I actually thought Chlemba might have got the upset, but he didn't, and obviously was pulled out at the end of the 8th round or 7th round, whenever it was, because he knackered his hand. But no, it was a cheap ass undercard from 2 promotional stables who have got no fighters, Rock Nation and obviously Kathy Duther. So it was what it was.
Right, so moving on from that, then we'll go from the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas to the dingy Victoria Warehouse in Manchester. Si, do you want to run us through this card, mate? The good fights on it, especially the main event was decent.
Yeah, do you know, I felt sorry for Woody because he's put he's got that fight on. Obviously, I'm not too sure who Tommy McCarthy's manager is, but Matty Askins with Frank Warren. So he got the show on, and then because every fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry in Belfast wanted to tune in, no one could get through on it. So he got through for that fight, but they missed Kakachi, didn't they? So I know Cohn was having a breakdown and was fucking looking at booking an EasyJet flight to come over and attack us. So yeah, do you know, there was a couple of really good performances on the undercard, like his young kick out Danny Wright, ABA champion. He boxed well, did good. Ben Sheedy boxed well, and you know, I don't like saying this, but fucking Jack Armfield did all right as well. So yeah,
I like that Ben Sheedy. I thought he was the better one because I watched some of it in between watching Hook.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something. I don't like dropping Ed Robinson in it when he tells you something, but when I scored Askin and McCarthy, Mike Jennings looked at me at the end of the fight. So you forget the fight, like forget where it was, and he looked at me. And he said, "How have you got it?" And I went, "I've got Askin by 2." And he looked at me. And then when Matty Askin come over, I think that obviously they think like with the Ryder Armfield thing, they think I might have been being a bit harsh. But I was just scoring it, I was seeing it. And it took me back to a conversation he had with Ed Robinson. And I don't know if you remember when Jim Watt used to get all the shit he used to get for scoring the fights. Ed said to me that it's one of the hardest things to do is to, I mean, I wasn't doing it because obviously I had John and Carl Thompson. They do like the majority of it. And he used to say to me, it's really hard to sit and commentate on a fight and to score a fight. And he said he couldn't believe it. Like when Jim Watt was getting all the shit he was, why Sky persisted in getting him to do it. And then you watch the fight back and you see it totally different. You know, if you just sit there and just judge it. And I think, you know, I don't know if that happens a lot with the commentators. It's like, just give it to somebody else, give it to somebody totally different, because it's almost like if you're commentating on a fight, you're trying to justify and keep people tuned into watching it.
That's
well,
why
you say that, but HBO got Harold Lederman and he can't judge for shit anymore. So
Yeah, but
I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like if you're commentating on a fight and you get it all the time on Sky with the shit we get every week, they're commentating on a fight, aren't they? But they're trying to keep you. Apart from Adam Smith when he went rogue in Monaco, I don't know what happened to him when he called it as he's seen it. But if you watch it week in week out, it's the commentator's job to try and keep you watching, isn't it? So you don't turn off and go and put some other shite on. So yeah, I think it's a little bit. Give it to somebody else. And I've watched it back, and I say I had Askin by about 5 rounds. But it was a good fight.
It's hard to score that fight though. It wasn't wasn't easy to score that fight.
No, it was. It comes back to what you want. Like, I thought sometimes like Askin wasn't doing a lot, and do you know what though? I was really disappointed in McCarthy. I had a tweet off an ex-pro today, an ex-Irish pro, and so I was very careful what I said. And he wanted me to kind of have a go about Brian McGee in the corner and how he was with him and all that. So I didn't want to get too involved because you never know what fucking comebacks you get when you start saying shit like that. So yeah, it was a good fight, and it was, for a small old show to get a genuine British title eliminator. Yeah, it was all right, but I wouldn't give it any more than 3 out of 5.
That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I don't know, but McCarthy's corner were going mad at him late on to like put it on the line, and he just wasn't. He was just like close to the long. It was a bit weird. I don't know.
It was kind of. I mean, the Irish do like hyping up their fighters, don't they? And I think off the back of Paddy Barnes turning over, Conlon turning over, Frampton doing what Frampton's doing. When you see like Mick Conlon tweet, I'm looking forward to watching Frampton. Looking forward to watching McCarthy, people like that. And based on what I've seen him, I kind of convinced myself he was better than what I'd already seen. So what I seen just disappointed me a little bit. But I don't know why I suddenly thought he was going to be better than I'd seen him in the previous fights. He was all right, but yeah, he's cruiserweights, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that Askin Craig Kennedy fight for the British. I reckon that'll be good. Good fun.
Yeah, who do you think will win that?
I think Kennedy, but I don't know now because I said it on Saturday night, but I'm starting to think actually would he though?
Well, that Belgian that Kennedy fought in Cardiff on the Lee Askins undercard, I thought that Belgian beat him, to be fair. I thought he was very, very fortunate to get the nod then.
Yeah, me too.
That was actually a really good fight, that as well. I'd like to see a rematch of that somewhere down the line. But I'm going with Matty Askin, to be fair. I think Craig Kennedy, he was dropped a few times against the Belgian, wasn't he? 2 or 3, am I right? One of them was ruled a slip.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think Matty Askin will beat him.
Oh, sorry.
What is it?
No, I'm just laughing. Sheffield United playing Bury. They've just had someone sent off, so we've had three red cards against us in a match and a half. But no, what with Askin, right? Because he really annoys me. I like cruiserweight, so I tend to keep an eye for a bit on it. But like, he always seems to get in a position where he can fucking prove like he's better. He's a better boxer than Orville McKenzie, right? And he should have beat Orville McKenzie really, and he fucked it up. I don't know what he did, but Saturday it was good, but it was just like, well, go on then, just do that bit more. And he's always like, it's always like he's fighting within himself. But I don't know. I do quite like him. I do think it'll be a decent fight, him and Kennedy.
Yes, it's another proper domestic fight, another decent level for the British title, which is all we want in it. Yeah. Make the title mean something again. Make the British mean something.
But I think Kennedy will bring it out of him a bit more than McCarthy did. So not much more to say.
All right, we'll stay in this country before we nip over to Germany. Did anyone watch Groves Gutnet?
Yeah.
Press pass, do you want to start?
Yeah, do you know what? Groves did well to a point, but you watch him now, and he's not digressed. He's not gone so far south that he can't do anything. But you watch him fight, and you watch fights previously to that, and then you go back and watch the first 4 or 5 rounds against Froch in the first fight, and even like when he fought De Gale, there's something about him that's just not there anymore. And I've never been one to really believe that if you get knocked out, then it takes everything away from you. I think there's so many fighters that have come back from it and still looked good, or if not better. But what's happened? There's something about the way he fights now that he looks vulnerable all the time, even when Gutneck wasn't doing anything apart from land the occasional right hand. And Groves finds himself in this sort of middle ground now between he's much better than everybody domestically in terms of a British title or a European title level, but I don't think he'll ever win a world title. I don't think
he will against Chudnov.
Well, but is that a real world title?
Well, it will be,
Chudnov's the real one.
But Chudinov will beat him based on what I've seen on Friday.
Yeah, I agree with you that, and I'm not a big fan of Chudinov.
No.
I think obviously they're on about going the Tyrone Zug route or Zuga route. I don't know. It's just I always said he'd beat DeGale in a rematch, and I don't think that's the case anymore. And I'm not always as high on DeGale as some people are. He still has moves and he still has moments where he looks really sharp, but the rest of the round he looks, I don't know, just very flat. I looked at him in the weigh-in and I wondered how much longer he's going to have to stay at 168, and I worry what would he be like at 175. When he fought Martin Murray, I thought he boxed really nicely. You know, he boxed well. And you can do that against Murray, because there's one thing that Murray's not going to do is blast you out. He might outwork you, but he's not going to knock you out with one punch. And when he's fought against lower level guys, like the Scottish guy I forgot on one of the Joshua cards, Brophy. Yeah, you know, again, when he knows he's above someone's level, he can take the risks. But that Gutneck wasn't that great a fighter, but Groves did the job. My only frustration on it is, again, I don't blame referees and corners very often for injuries. You know, when Mike Towell passed away and when Nick Blackwell was so badly hurt, I didn't put the blame on anyone because I don't think there was blame to be had. I watched that fight and I tweeted in round 10. I think I sent 2 tweets. One was saying his eyes shut, he can't see the punches. And then the second one was they need to stop the fight, because there was a bit when Groves landed a right hand and Gutneck didn't even move. Like, he didn't even, not that he didn't try and duck out the way, he didn't see the hand come in. And for me, his corner, I don't always put it on the corners, because the corner's job is to get their man out for another 3 minutes. Yes, they've got to look after their fighter, but their job is to get them in a position where they can carry on fighting. It's the referee and the doctor's job to stop the fight. Gutneck should have been pulled out in the 10th round. He may have still ended up in hospital, but he went through another 6 minutes of right hand punches that he couldn't see. And I think that's when the board look at that fight, I really think they should look at it. Obviously, we've not heard much from Gutneck. I mean, we all know he's in hospital, but I don't know if any of you guys have heard any updates on him. But he was in a bad way, it seems. Yeah, but he shouldn't have been. He shouldn't have been in that. That was not a comparable situation to Blackwell or to Towell for me. You could see he couldn't see the punches, and that, from my opinion, you don't send a guy out there. Not when he's 9 rounds down. What's he going to do?
He was awful. But like Groves couldn't stop a man who had one eye and was not throwing many punches. But it's like I said before on Friday night, Groves has got 1 stoppage after the 6th round, and that were that Mommers boy. So his power obviously doesn't carry that late. And obviously we know his stamina's shit. I don't know. Every time I watch him, it's just uninspiring now. I'm not really any interest. I wouldn't be surprised if Callum Smith beat him. I honestly wouldn't, because I just think, well, if he don't bang Smith out early and it gets like 8 or 9 rounds, is he going to end up fucking getting stopped to the body or something?
I disagree. I think Groves is at the bottom tier of sort of world level, where he can win against maybe the top sort of 10 to 5 and then get beat quite comprehensively by the top 5. But I do think he'll win a world title in the right fight. And I think people are guilty of judging him on them first 6 rounds against Froch, which is his Everest moment. And I say this a lot.
The thing with Groves for me, like, and I was a Froch fan against him, and obviously I was a DeGale fan as well. He used to do a really good job. And Murray, yeah. But we'll not talk about that one. He used to do a really good job of pissing me off. Like, in the build-up to a fight, he was brilliant, for selling a fight, for everything else. That's gone. Like, and I know I think I called him Ian Beale, like when Ian Beale come back after he'd been homeless and he hid behind a tree. You look at Groves, and Groves, he looks old, he's lost his hair, he's lost his personality, and there's nothing to Groves now. There's no.
Sorry, have you seen the video where Ian Beale's crying in Phil's arms, going, "I've got nothing left"?
Yeah, it's like, it's like you know, and people say, should he have left out and moved? Should he have gone back when he went with the fucking Paddy in the caravan and all that shit? It's like, I just fucking, like, it's on Channel 5. You watch it because there's fuck all on and that's why people have watched it. But he's just lost. Oh, do you know what? I was pissed up at a show many moons ago, and I went and sat next to George, and I just said, "Do you know what, mate?" I said, "I think you're a bit of a bellend, but what a top job you do at selling fights." And he started laughing. Whereas now you look at him, and it's like you almost feel sorry for the bloke. It's like he's sat in a doctor's waiting room at the press conferences and stuff like that. There's nothing. I watch him because he's George Groves because of what he's done, but. For me, he's like, I worry that someone like Callum Smith will beat him now.
Yeah. There's two things I agree with outside. The 2 points that I noticed was one, it's just little things about him where it must be difficult to motivate yourself when he's basically now playing at such a lower level. You know, like you said, you called it his Everest moment when he fought Froch, but in both fights, you know, he sold and was involved in one big fight and one absolutely mega fight. And now he's having to kind of motivate even little stupid things. I know it's like the ring walks, like the ring walk looked like it cost about 10 quid. And he's gone from coming in on London buses, you know, his ego has obviously had to take such a step down. And he's lost fights that in his mind, he should never have lost to Badu Jack. You know, he should have won that fight. And he's having to constantly now build himself back up again. And I just don't know, looking at him, it's just difficult to question his motivation or why he's doing it. And he doesn't. What I always liked about Groves is that he always got into Eddie Hearn's skin. Like in interviews, Eddie was always really awkward around Groves. But now, like so I said, you're right. He looks so flat, and you hear him talking on IFL, and everything just looks difficult for him. He's not going to be playing with the Rubik's Cube. He's not going to be, you know, coming out with silly little comments like he does in his predictions. He just looks very flat in himself, but he's still a very talented fighter. And the big point for me was he showed no killer instinct. There was a point when Gutnick got hurt. I can't remember what the shot was. I think it wasn't a particularly big punch, but Gutnick walked away. Yeah, he walked away and sagged. He went against the ropes because he obviously was a bit, you know, he lost where he was in the ring and wanted to kind of feel the ropes on his back. The Groves that put away Kenny Anderson, the Groves that put away Charles Adamu years ago would have dived on him. And for some reason, he didn't. Whether he's just worried about being hit, I don't know. But for me, that was the biggest issue amongst anything that happened in that fight was there was no killer instinct from him. And I think if that was another fighter, they would have put him away at that stage. But Groves froze. And it's just bizarre. Like I said, I watched Froch Groves 1. I always say is one of my best fight I've ever been to live by a mile. In terms of the quality of the fight, it was just for 6 rounds, unbelievable. And then, you know, that wasn't that long ago, really. And now he still looks a good fighter, but doesn't look anything like the same guy to me.
No, that's fair enough. I can't argue that, but I was going to say, I can't remember what I was going to say. It'll come to me in a minute.
Well, the only thing I'd say, is the line, "Oh, he shouldn't be losing to Badu Jack." Why should he not?
That's the one.
Badu Jack, when they're retired, Badu Jack's going to have had a fucking better career than Groves will. Let's ignore the money that he made. And he's shown consistently that he's at a better level than Groves.
In the same way, that's the same reason why Jack might beat De Gale, because Jack has shown the ability to consistently box for 12 rounds, whereas De Gale still hasn't shown that yet. And Groves, who for me was a more talented fighter going in, and I still think he's on talent alone, he's a better fighter. But you know, and considering the fact that he got put down, he still went on to win a lot of the rounds in that fight. But he just didn't show. Yeah, didn't show the durability, and he didn't show the consistency within the rounds. And he's not done that for a while. De Gale's never done it, and that's why I said De Gale's always a question mark for me. Bag's a talent, but I'm tempted to pick Badu Jack when those two fight because you just know what you're going to get from Jack, and De Gale will give you 4 rounds for the sake of it.
Anyway, I'm picking the Ripper in that fight, but we're not discussing that yet. We've got plenty of time before we get onto that one. Anything else on that undercard that was interesting? Conrad Cummins lost, didn't he? That was that upset the Irish. They've took a few L's this weekend, actually.
Oh, it was a bad week for Ireland this week. Yeah. Bad week for Ireland and Australia. Shocking.
Sorry about that, Colm.
Not much to say about Cummins. Can't be arsed with it.
No, I'm getting a bit bored of Andrew Selby now. I want to say that. I want to see him step him. I know he's still a prospect and whatnot, but he's much better level than the guys he's fighting.
It's difficult in that division, though, mate. I mean, Stewie will currently be smashing his phone against the wall hearing that comment, but
No, I
it's
like Andrew
difficult.
Selby a lot. I just want to see him tested.
Yeah, the problem is in that weight class, and it was the same thing, obviously, with similar weights, like with little Cal Yafai. They couldn't find anyone for Cal that was ever really going to test him, and his step up is against Conception, which he might lose, and that's the problem. There's very good guys, and there's imports. There's no one from the UK. You're going to get someone in from South America or Central America, and you're going to hope that they're decent. Sometimes they are, and sometimes then you get what you get. And I think Selby's been moved quite well. It's just we don't really know who he's fighting because there are so many very average guys who can get the call in that division. You couldn't get away with fighting that sort of opponent if he was at lightweight or welter because the depth of talent is just a lot stronger.
Well, he fought Louis Norman, didn't he? And he wasn't overly impressive in that. Pigface beat Louis Norman easier than Selby did, in my opinion. And
well, Pigface is the example. Look at the step up he had to take, and look at the difference. He looked really comfortable in all of his fights,
no, but
and then he stepped up and got banjoed.
Pigface didn't have to take that step up. Her and sort his easy world title, chuck it on that Golovkin bill, make it appeal to the casuals more. That's why that was done. What's his name? Pigface was a sacrificial lamb.
Sacrificial pig.
Yeah. What else? Did you watch Kutcher Huck?
I watched it.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
It was alright. Box Nation coverage was fucking shit, by the way.
Yeah, go on your rant about that then. Have your rant.
Bum City, honestly, and like, we're wondering about that a lot. If they're going to be doing this deal with BT, right, they've got to get rid of Bunce. Honestly, they've got to get rid of him. Like, they can't have him sat there, like, making stupid petty jokes about Sky and just being an all-round fucking idiot, basically. Like, some of the stuff he comes out with and it all referring to everyone, oh, I know them on the other side. It's just like, it's all right, we can just make like little jokes and stuff, but they're supposed to be it's supposed to try to be professional. But, like, I thought Barry Jones were his scorecard was terrible for the Hot Kutcher fight as well. But he tends to avoid criticism.
What did you think of the fight then?
It was pretty decent. What we expected. Hook's definitely not as fucking like on the way out. Definitely. I think he'd have probably stopped Kutcher maybe 18 months, 2 years ago, but I don't think he's lost a step, but he's on the way to losing it. I'd still be surprised if anyone beat him in Germany as well, because the cards were very wide. I think Kutcher probably won maybe 3 or 4 rounds. Well, no, he probably won 4 rounds. But I don't know. He started quite slowly, came into it in the middle rounds, and he got hurt quite badly. Well, not even quite badly. He was pretty much gone. But like he got a swine over his eye as well, which sort of hindered him. But like, I think Hook could probably beat Bellew, to be honest. I don't think Bellew's not going to stop Hook.
I was going to ask you. Sorry, did you see this fight, by the way, or not?
I watched it. I put it on last night. What round was Kutcher was really hurt in one of the rounds?
8 or 9, I think it was.
Yeah, I think I watched it from about seven till going to the points, and it was a typical marker. What fight I thought?
I was going to ask you this. I personally haven't seen it, but I think, from what I've heard anyway, I think Bellew would beat Huck now, and I think that's an ideal opponent for him if they're not going to get a unification or it. Well, pray to God the hay fight don't happen, because I don't want to see that. Well, I think it's a good, because Huck's not going to. Bellew should beat Huck now. You've got to say Bellew is a legitimate cruiserweight after beating Makubu, and BJ Flores did nothing for it. I don't take that, but beating Makubu especially makes him a legitimate cruiser. Beating Huck, I mean, he hasn't got a title, but he's still got a name that's quite relevant in the division. If he can say, I've beat Huck, I've beat Makubu.
But the thing is, Huck's not going to travel, and Bellew's not going to go to Germany.
Yeah, but Huck's got nothing, is he? And no one's going to be queuing up to give him a title shot.
It doesn't matter, because he earns a fair amount just on his little fucking circus parade in Germany. He doesn't need to go. He doesn't need to go travel. See, the only reason he ended up in America to fight Glovacki is because he was with Heyman.
He'd been to Sauerlands often, he?
Yeah, but now he's promoting himself. He doesn't need to be going. Heyman won't offer him enough money to come here.
What was the crowd like? Is there still like a Huck gravy train over there?
Yeah, it was pretty full. Pretty full.
Them Germans are weird, man. They're worse than the Irish for supporting their guys, aren't they?
They're not even German. Like, they're all like Serbians and fucking Croatians and all mad shit. They're just from all over, but because Germany's got the market for it, innit? But I don't know. It'd be a decent fight. It's not going to happen because neither guy's going to travel. It's the same with a Lebedev fight. There's no way that Hearn's going to pay enough for Lebedev to come over here when he's promoted by a billionaire who's just going to fucking pay him whatever. Lebedev might get beat anyway, but someone asked a question on it. So, like, what's next for Bellew? Because Hearn says, Fat Veer's unlikely to be next. Unification with Lebedev's possible. Will he try and duck Breedis and go for the Hook fight?
Yeah. How would you... You'd have to pay Braid a step-aside money, wouldn't you, to take Huck? Because Huck's not got a title that means anything. That IBO's not recognised, is it?
I don't believe
I don't think the WBC would recognise that IBO because that is a nothing belt in it. That is a piece of shit.
No.
So either way, they'd have to pay Braid a step-aside money. But the WBC, they're stacking up them mandatories, aren't they? Because what's the other one that's behind in a queue?
There's only one at the minute. I think you're thinking of Drost, who was the champion.
He's ready. As soon as he comes back, he's guaranteed a title shot.
No. He's
or is he not now?
He's retired. He's actually fucked, so he's not retired.
Oh, they got lucky with that one then.
Well, it's not. That wouldn't have been a mandatory, but I still think that Breedis is, because I'm not sure, but Macabu was the mandatory for Drost, and then he got it. So I think he's got to fight Breedis by April, or he's going to get stripped. I'd love it if he got stripped. It'd be quite ironic.
Yeah.
But
anyway, moving on from reviews now. We've done these to death now.
Yeah.
It's odd on a week, especially these days, where you get 4 cards with a Friday one.
Yeah.
All on a weekend, and all of them had a half decent fight on. You want to talk about that IFL video, don't you, with Hearn?
Yeah. Well, it's just in one bit because, funnily enough, Si mentioned it.
Yeah, because this relates to Si as well, like King of the Small Hall, doesn't it?
Yeah. So Si mentioned it when you come to in Saturday that Hearn said he only wants world level fighters.
Yeah.
Which he's since said it on IFL. He wants world level fighters, guys who are going to start stadiums and be pay-per-view superstars, basically. Which is the most fucking ridiculous comment he's ever made. And he's made a few. Just think, right? And he didn't say world champions, he said world level guys. And he's got probably fucking 2. Well, no, because DeKale and Sobey's leaving him, but I'm not. So, like, Brooks probably the only other one who's got a world level win with McDonald. So, like, where's he going then to get all these fucking world level guys who don't exist in this country? Like,
do you know? I just think it's an Eddie Hearn comment that he makes, and I think he's made it to take the shine off the BT deal, to basically say anybody that leaves me or leaves Matchroom to go and fight on BT, you're not world level. I don't even think he really. I mean, if you look at the actual, forget who can headline stadiums, because in terms of headlining stadiums, I think there's only AJ. In terms of headlining arenas, other than you get the likes of Josh Warrington in Leeds, or you get the likes of, I wouldn't even say Kell Brook in Sheffield, but with no one who can headline arenas, Tony Bellew doesn't do a bad job in Liverpool, but you look at the money Eddie had to pay Derry Matthews because tickets weren't selling. So for me, he's just made a comment because he's a promoter and he's kind of trying to deflect a bit of attention, and because Warren's saying, "Oh, I'm going to be able to entice people now, and we've got all the power, we've got this." I just think it was a comment that Eddie's made, and it's just like, Eddie, really, if you just said that, you've not even got potential world champions in your stable now, or genuine world class. I know he's got a couple, but it's like, seriously, and I just took it with a pinch of salt. I just took it as it was one of them a little bit. I think Frank probably beat him at pool that day, and he was a little bit like, I've won all the games in the past. So it was a bit daft from Eddie.
Sorry, you know a lot of the fighters. Do you know anyone, or is there anyone that is really thinking about going from Hearn to Warren?
A lot of people are waiting to see what's on offer, because I know, like, I messaged Dewey the week. I know MGM have got 12 of the 20 dates. I know another couple of, and it's not all going to be Frank Warren shows. I think that's what people think it is. It's not. It's going to be like what Frank Maloney used to do years and years ago, where he's going to put a show on in association with. So you might see Steve Goodwin, you might see, whoever it is. It's going to be shows in association with. So I think we need to see how much. Well, I know the lads are waiting to see, like, the kind of money that's knocking about. And I don't think it's quite how Frank's put it across it's going to be, because I think people think he's suddenly going to have a load of dough and then we're going to have 10 arena shows with new headline stars and all this kind of stuff. I think you're going to get the likes of Jack Catterall on MGM. I think he'll headline shows in the Northwest, and then there's going to be a bit more money there, don't get me wrong, but is that going to be enough to make you jump ship from Sky? You know, the likes of Gavin McDonnell was a name I've seen thrown about, and Charlie Edwards. And at the minute, I think people are just like, you know, let's wait and see what's going to be happening. But I don't think it's as big as what Frank's made it out to be, and I also don't think I think you know, it was just a load of shite. You know, last week it was just the both saying stuff to try and get one-upmanship. And like I say, come back to me in February and I'll comment on that. Just one, because obviously I didn't want to interrupt because you get a bad name for yourself on this pod.
No, feel free. We only talk shit anyway.
If Hay and Bellew doesn't happen, which it doesn't look like it is, I know lads in Liverpool have been told to get ready for February at the Echo Arena for Bellew and Brady. So that's looking like February at the Echo. The lads have been told to get ready for that on the undercard.
That's his reign over there, not more than likely.
I think I'd go to that.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of Latvians go.
Yeah, I think I'd go.
Yeah. No, there will be. There's about fucking 100 of him.
Yeah, there was.
Well, yeah, early on against Simon Vallili, weren't they? They had the flags out and that.
So he'll have a few there.
I look quite Latvian.
That's a good fight, that. If that comes off, Bellew he doesn't deserve credit as a mandatory, but this day and age, people do get credit for taking a tough mandatory, don't they? But I'd go to that. That's a good fight. I look forward to that early part of next year.
Yeah.
What have we got this weekend? I'm not talking about that Sky car because that's fucking dreadful.
So there's the skate card on Friday.
Oh, boys from Brentwood.
Yeah, then there's the Wales card and Lomachenko card Saturday, innit?
Right, that Wales card's taking a bit of a hit now with Amit Patterson getting bricked. That's disgusting. I do want to say they knew about that since last Thursday,
and they're not saying anything.
And they've just said today.
Yeah,
that's dodgy. That
Warren has a habit of, when something goes wrong, he waits until he's got an answer or a fix before he says it. So the logical thing would have been Thursday. Obviously, Amit Patterson's trainer or whoever would have phoned the office and said, yeah, he's out. He's been hurt. And logically, you'd think they'd send a tweet out saying he's out. We're working on an opponent. But so often, we've had it with Billy Joe Saunders and all sorts numerous times, or when shows have been binned and they've gone, oh, by the way, this has been cancelled. But don't worry, we're now moving such and such to Manchester, Paul Butler to Liverpool. And, you know, that just seems to be the way that Warren and Queensbury tend to do it. I think losing that fight is a shame, because on Saturday in Wales we've got a double world title header, but they are such terrible fights that the Williams Patterson fight was what most people were tuning in to watch. And for me, Langford Samshidi is a better fight than Terry Flanagan versus Orlando Cruz. The top of the bills are, there might be world titles on the line, but where they've Akavov and Orlando Cruz, famous for being the only openly gay boxer, which is a commendable thing, but it doesn't mean he deserves a world title shot. And
he's still a shit boxer.
Yeah, he's still a poor boxer, and he lost his other title shot wide. And Akavov, who has won a few fights on the bounce, but fought no one, done nothing, and he just happens to be in the god-awful WBO ratings. And Warren's just picked him out of a hat. I mean, if I'm Terry Flanagan, look at who Farner and Orlando Cruz. I mean, come on.
Derry Matthews has got a great defence.
Right, no, sorry, I want to ask you about this, because you know Terry, didn't you?
Yeah.
Is he happy with this level of competition? Is he getting something that he knows and he's sticking around for that?
So when the Fanner fight was made last year, the reason why they made the Fanner fight was, and I need to be careful here because I'm going to end up dropping myself in some shit with Steve. Steve Wood did think that Crawler was going to take the Flanagan fight. The reason he didn't take that fight, so they said basically we're going to take Fanner, and then later on this year we're going to get Crawler in the ring. We're happy for it. So all of Flanagan's team were happy for Flanagan to come over and box on a Matchroom show because they were that confident that Flanagan had beat Crawler. They'd obviously get the momentum off the back of that. Then what happened was Barry Hearn's gone under his bed at home and he pulled out a ridiculous sum of money to pay Crawler to fight Linares. So that fight got killed in the water, and kind of Flanagan's kind of just he's kind of sat there looking around now, thinking, or he's looking at the level of opponents he's got. Cruz, it's how bad a fight is it? I don't know. You know, I don't know.
It's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah,
Well,
I think the thing for Terry is obviously Terry was, they were looking at Mikey Garcia, they were looking at Zlatican, and then them two end up fighting each other. There was even, I know for a fact Terry's willing to go. He was willing to go fight Verdejo as well out in New York at the time. Then he had these accidents, so it's what they were genuinely. Frank and Steve were genuinely looking, and they were going to get him a decent opponent, but it's not happened. And I think after this opponent now, it depends. I mean, one of the reasons why Terry was staying with Frank was, other than he's not overly marketable. Terry's a very, very talented boxer. Is he world class? I think I don't think anyone can know for definite yet. But he was getting well paid. He was getting better paid than he would have got off Frank. Off Eddie. And it's one of them. I think he needs to look at his next opponent and then say, do I need to be looking at Eddie? What Eddie's saying, because Eddie's saying about world class boxers, and if he can get me the fights. But just one for again. What I don't want to. I'll probably stick my neck on the line here. I'd get ready for Billy Joe Saunders to be pulled off on Saturday.
By Orlando Cruz.
No. Yeah, just so I stay on the right side of the PC brigade. No, I'd get ready for him to be. I'd get ready for him to be off the card. I got told last week that Billy Joe wasn't going to be boxing next Saturday, and I've had a couple of texts today saying it. So I'm not going to come out and say he's off the card, but reliable sources. The people that tell you and are normally right have told me that Billy Joe's going to be off this Saturday.
There's been a lot of rumours about Billy Joe the last few months, about relationship-wise with his promoter and his potential future. There's been an awful lot of little things people have been saying here and there. So it'd be interesting to see what he does next year.
I hope it's not true. But like I say, you don't know, do you? What I would say about the two cards, I know you don't want to talk about the Wembley card because.
No, if you want to mention it, so by all means.
Well, I don't want to get on women's boxing because I'll end up getting bombarded with tweets. So I'll just
no one that listens to this, mate, cares about women's boxing. Let me assure you of that.
Someone to tweet and tag me in, and I'll be like bloody Brody in Homeland, won't it? It'll be one of them. So basically, women's boxing is not for me. Martin Ward's been his opponent. They've gone round. They've asked some super featherweights, are you in a condition or are you ready to fight Martin Ward? With 2 weeks to go, he's got Ronnie Clark. The top of the bill fights. Do you know what bugs me? And it'll be interesting. Like you two, like everyone in the group can have a comment on it. Both. I know it wasn't the main event. Tommy Coyle against John Wayne Hibbert, but Liam Williams and Patterson. So say they've known last week. Say what happened to the days when an opponent would pull out with a week to go or 3 days to go, and you'd get an half decent opponent. Martin Geffin, he was fucking talking about retirement last week. And now he's being brought in, and we're being.
Press pass was there.
Yeah, I'll talk a bit about Martin Geffin. So the Martin Geffin was shot a long time ago, and I don't like saying that because I've seen Martin. He's always at the local shows, and he's a really nice guy. The issue is he went out and fought Adam Little, right? So that was what I thought was going to be his last fight. Adam Little, who's not a puncher, sparked Geffin in 3 rounds, right? He fought on Saturday against the journeyman Liam Richards. I'm sure you've probably seen it at shows, and he won every round. But the idea that he can be just thrust into a fight, he was going to retire. He wanted basically one more fight after the disappointing fight against Little. What's happened behind the scenes is what I know. He's obviously got the phone call because he's been on Matchroom shows before, and they've got a relationship from that side of things. They've offered him good money, and he has been pushed to take the fight. And he will get John Wayne Hibbert will knock him out. And it's a shame because he is. You say, is there a great opponent option? No, he fought Saturday, just gone.
What about a good opponent? Forget great. Let's just say good. So we've known about that. So Tommy Coyle, for the reasons that he pulled out the fight, apparently Matchroom knew a little bit longer than obviously the timescale when they've come out and said it. One of the opponents who got approached for doing that was a guy who. So it was Kofi Yates. So Tom Farrell beat Kofi Yates at Goodison in May. And you think, okay, let's look at Tom Farrell. Now, I'm friends with Tom, so I'm not making Tom's case, but it's a bit like we've got Geffin, and are they going to try and sell it that Geffin dropped Tommy Coyle? Yeah. It's a bit like Molina, isn't it? When they show you the clips of the fight against, what was he called? He stopped him in the first round. My mind's gone blank.
Areola.
So they show you the clips where he's not getting hit by Areola, hoping that people aren't going to go on YouTube and watch the fight. Tommy Coyle did get dropped by Geffin, and then Geffin, whatever happened, he perforated his eardrum, or whatever happened there. It's a shit fight. It's garbage, And then you look at, I've seen, I think Pops tweeted who the opponent is for Liam Williams. Are you seriously telling me there's not a fucking decent welterweight in the country, or fucking pay him a bit of money to get an half decent fight? Geffin against Ibbott on Saturday on Sky on that bill. I've joined this pod so I don't piss Eddie Hearn off on Twitter, because it's fucking it's seriously on Saturday night. It's an awful card.
Well, look at those two opponents, Si. Look at Liam Williams' opponent fought in America on Saturday just gone, and Martin Gethin fought in Warsaw on Saturday, and they're now being put in against one guy who's potentially world level and one guy who's definitely British level. Yeah, it's from both sides. It's embarrassing.
Do you know, actually, I'm going to take that back there. The Wembley show isn't that bad. So you've got Carson Jones against Bennett. Anything could happen there. You've got Bellotti and Bailey, but Bellotti's going to stop Bailey because I think Bailey's had too many tough fights. Martin Ward and Ronnie, it's not a terrible fight, but it's like Tommy Coyle and John Wayne Ibbott. If that's the level of main events, and I know they want us all to buy into Katie Taylor. Another issue I've got with women's boxing, other than the fact it's just totally, I'd rather seriously go and look in when Katie Taylor comes on, and without saying anything controversial, I'll go and buy a hot dog. I'll leave. I don't want to see it. Women's boxing does absolutely nothing for me. I always imagine my auntie, or I imagine some fucking bird I've been with fighting. It just does absolutely nothing for me.
So your auntie counts for both of them?
Yeah, it's just if Katie Taylor's boxing on that show and she's taking all that money out of the show, which means we end up with John Wayne Ibbott and Tommy Coyle as a headline fight on a Saturday night at Wembley Arena, then I'm sorry because it's Adams is going to be turning over soon again. I say Adams boxes at the Leeds Arena, and then she takes money out. She takes more money out of the undercard. And it's not about the women's boxing. Well, Katie Taylor's obviously getting a fortune because she's boxing on that show and everything else, and it's just like. It just give us a decent fucking main event, Eddie, as well, because it's a good undercard. It's a solid undercard. There's enough scraps on interest. I see people saying that Ben Hall's going to get beaten. But fucking hell, what a fucking shit opponent Martin Gethin is.
But Si, this is it. You know why this card is on its arse? Because the plan was to have Chisora versus White as the main event. And suddenly you turn a card full of a mixture of fairly interesting but low-level matchups with two big heavyweights. What they've had to do, because of when the Klitschko fight falling apart, was they suddenly had to try and make some sort of decent chief support as they see it, which they did, moving the White Chisora fight up north. And suddenly you've got this. Hearn hasn't put on a show like this in a long time, where he's put on some poor shows, but not ones where you're obviously looking at it and going, O'Hara Davis is the main event.
Yeah, but
even if
people want us to believe now, and I've just seen O'Hara Davis has just put something on Facebook, because I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he said Scarpa's, don't forget fucking John Wayne Ibbott against Scarpa. Scarpa was about 4-1. I had him at 10-3. I fancied him to beat. So he was 10-3 to beat John Wayne Ibbott. He stops John Wayne Ibbott, and now we're expected to believe he's going to give Eddie Hearn's big, O'Hara Davis up as a potential world champion. That they want us to believe that this is a meaningful fight. O'Hara Davis is going to stop him in the first 6 rounds for me, and it's just fucking what a frustrating card it is, because it could have been quality. You just talked about Chisora and White. The fight that was actually going to be headlining it, because as soon as it didn't look like they were going to have a decent opponent for AJ, I know Alfie Burton got offered the fight against Buglioni at Wembley, but they were giving him a few more, whatever they were giving him. So I'm not talking money, but they were giving him a little bit more money. And Burton's looked at it and said, "Fuck that!" He's pulled out of boxing on the Manchester card once. He pulls out, and now I end up going boxing down there. He beat me as an amateur on the card, so. Just fucking, I'm fucking Saturday nights drove me mad.
I'll say one final thing on it and move on to someone else, because I'll shut up. But the only thing I'll just say with the women's boxing is there's 2 things I want to say on it. One, mixed martial arts fans and UFC fans were saying the same thing a few years ago, and women's UFC or women's mixed martial arts has become huge, and the quality has been, for the most part, very good. The only flip side I'd say is Katie Taylor, from an amateur standpoint, is past her prime. Okay, she was a lot better 4 years ago than she is today. I don't see that putting everything, the push behind her makes sense, apart from the obvious fact that she's a huge name in Ireland and the press turnout, obviously, for the press today was massive. Nicola Adams, for me, seems a far more logical push from Matchroom because she's younger. And I think that she's at her peak now, whereas I think Katie Taylor, certainly from her amateur days, is past it. And also the problem that the fight fans will have is that we just don't know these opponents. I mean, I've watched a bit of women's boxing because on some of these like like the Scandinavian shows, there's been women's boxing on. Some of it can be good, but I don't know the people. And when they announced Taylor's opponent, I had no idea who it was. But that was the same for Clarissa Shields. And like I said, the Shields fight at the weekend was decent. So we can be positive on it, but I'm with you for a lot of it. Women's boxing for me is a bit like women's football. I don't think that women shouldn't box. I'm fully supportive of women that want to box and fight and compete, but the quality has to be there. It can't just be sling them in the ring and we'll watch it. If the quality's good, if you get like a Serena Williams equivalent in boxing, then great, I'll watch it. But it's got to be better than certainly what we may find on Saturday.
Yeah, we get, you get accused, don't you, saying you don't like change and shit like that. And I don't want to have a total boo-boo on women's boxing, but it's just not for me. Just not for me.
Ainsley, have you got anything to add on women's boxing? You're opinionated on most things.
No, it's just if she weren't Irish, we wouldn't have signed her.
At the end of the day, I would watch it if it was good. If it's shit, I won't watch it. Simple as that. If it turns out and they're all fucking shit hot, they're all mini Mayweathers, for example, we'd all watch it, but they're not going to be, so we won't. Simple as that. Right, let's move on to a proper fight now. Best fight of the weekend, Lomachenko versus Walters. You all looking forward to this one? You still there?
I was going to go first. Someone else can go.
Who wants to go Lomachenko Walters then? Macho, do you want to come in?
I'll go first because I've talked a lot, so I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a really good fight, and I think Lomachenko will stop him, and that'll do me because I've talked a lot about the other subjects, so I'm going to shut up now and let everyone else have a go.
Ainsley, you're a big fan of Lomachenko. You love your Ukrainians.
I agree with Si. I think he'll stop Walters. Donaire him pretty fucking badly, and I still think he cuts shitloads to make super feather. So I think Loma will get him between 8 and 10.
Do you think it'll be a one-sided shellacking? Or do you think Lomachenko will have to come for any rough parts?
First 3 rounds might be a bit tough, but I think after that he'll take over. That's the way I see it. He's better at everything, pretty much, isn't he? So
he's better at everything than most people, to be fair, though, isn't he?
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's just in so many the power alone. I don't think Walters is that skilled, to be honest. So I don't really think he's going to be able to translate his power all that much.
I think this is Lomachenko's big coming out party on Saturday. I think that even though he's been on big shows and people are well aware of who he is as a world champion, and I think this is the fight where he wins, but wins it incredibly well. I think that Walters, who I really like actually, and he's been in some very good fights and he knows how to put a fighter away. Like I said, he may well make it interesting for a little bit, but I think he's hittable. I think if Loma really wants to put a show on, I think he can box him and then stop him in the mid rounds. I think he has the ability to do that. Everyone knows how talented he is, but like I said, it's been able to be a very talented fighter and be exciting. And if Lomachenko wants to be more than just a hardcore fans kind of favourite and wants to kind of cross over where so many very good technical amateurs have failed to do so, and the big difference between him and so many of those is he does have that power. I think Walters is not tailor-made. That's disrespectful to Walters. He's a good fighter, but I think this is a really good chance for Loma to put on a really emphatic performance.
This is testament to the ability of Loma. Mute yourself. This is testament to the ability of Lomachenko, that he can go up against someone as good as Walters, who is top 5 at the weight, and no one gives Walters a chance in hell, really, other than if he can land some Hail Mary, which is madness when you think about it. What's the Lomachenko? Is this his 8th fight, 9th fight, or is it?
Yeah, 6-1, so it's his 8th fight. Yeah.
See, that's amazing. That these guys, the amateurs like him, they're so impressive. The only question mark I've got about Lomachenko still is whether someone, maybe Salido again, or someone like Salido, could get inside and rough him up and make it really dirty and horrible. I don't think Walters has that.
that.
Yeah, so do I. But I want to see if it can happen again. Because until we see, we don't know if he did learn. We don't know if he's only good at boxing from. Well, he's good at boxing on the inside as well. But if someone can get in up close and make it dirty for him, again, see how he reacts to that this time, or see if he's learned through his time in the pros now. But I don't think Walters has got that ability in him anyway. I think Walters gets beat pretty handily.
If Lomachenko stops Walters, I'm having him over Frampton for fight of the year.
With the Martinez win?
That's a big shout.
I think, because, Santa Cruz is good, but he's not the best in the division. Quigg is all right. We don't even know how all right he is. I think Walters is pretty much... I think Walters, if you weight pound for pound, is better than Quigg.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, the Martinez win was very good. It can't be mistaken. And I think if he stopped, it's the fact that he would have stopped both of them was the big thing.
And the impressive way he beat Martinez as well. He was never in that fight for a second. Macho, are you a Lomachenko fan? I know you don't like your Eastern Europeans, do you, really?
I'm a Lomachenko fan. Yeah, I think he'll win this fight fairly comfortably. But Walters has got a long old reach, so
he's got arms like a fucking orangutan.
Yeah,
yes.
he's a big old lump. So it'll be interesting to see how Lomachenko manages to get inside. But he's a bit made of glass, isn't he? I think Walters. So I fancy Lomachenko to do a job on him. But I only really came on to defend my boy Dre, but I think I've missed all that chat now. So
I'll bring you back in now. Ainsley, you up for an argument here?
Yeah, go for it.
State your case with Ward then, Macho, because none of us agree with you.
Okay, so before the fight, I wanted Ward to win. I thought Ward would win. I did say that I thought he'd school him, and I think there was elements where he did school him. The big question for me was whether we could handle the power. And I know a lot of people got a bit stressed out about that comment. They took it as a slight on Kovalev, but it's not really, because Kovalev's the bigger guy. He's the heavier guy. He's the bigger puncher. So that was a key factor in the old fight. So if he could handle the power, I thought it'd be a relatively easy night's work for him. If he couldn't, it would be a difficult one. And after the first couple of rounds, I think we found out the answer to that question. Got rocked with a couple of jabs, put back on his heels. He was tagged as well with a right hand, which I think he partially blocked, but you could tell by looking at Ward, he was like, oh, fuck me, I'm in trouble here. The second round was much of the same. Kovalev established his jab. You probably talked about it already, but the knockdown punch I thought was brilliant. He's thrown his jab. Ward's gone on the outside to counter with a right hand. Kovalev's caught him with one. He didn't get a full extension on it, but he kind of, I don't know, it was more like inside of the glove, or just on it wasn't really like the full knuckles. But then after that, I thought the story of the fight was pretty much, it was about Ward getting back into the fight. Now, whether he was just doing better than he did in the first couple of rounds, that's open for debate. But I thought, Ward established his jab better. He found a home for the right hand. He got the left hook in play. He also got the check hook in play. And I thought his body work, a lot of people were digging about his body work, but I really enjoyed the inside game because we don't really see that much anymore. He was landing like hooks to the body, shots to the body. And for the most part, I just thought Kovalev didn't do much. That second round knockdown, it almost as if he fought, as if he expected the knockout to come. And I just don't think he'd done much after that. He was just headhunting, wasn't varying his work. He was following Ward around the ring. And apart from the second round and maybe the 10th, how many big rounds did Kovalev win? So I was really surprised, actually, the scorecards. People had the scorecards so wide. I can see it either way, 1-1-4, 1-1-3 to either. If Kovalev got the nod, fair play, I could have understood it, wouldn't have agreed with it. But yeah, I don't understand how you guys have got your scorecards so wide. I don't get it.
I think, to be fair, I had it 114, 113 to Kovalev, so I didn't have it really, really wide. I think, like you said, your point, you can make it one round or another, but the only thing I disagree with is really the fact that, not that it's all about stats and numbers, but from Kovalev was landing more punches and throwing more punches pretty much consistently every single round. There was only a couple of rounds when Ward landed more shots, and it wasn't like you can make the case that Kovalev's landing light punches and Ward was landing the more significant blows. The only case I made for Ward was, as an overall point, it felt like I was watching an Andre Ward fight rather than watching a Kovalev fight. But I don't think Ward's, there were so few obvious Ward rounds that you were having to almost try and not force yourself to give them, but you're having to be like, okay, well, that was close, and Kovalev didn't really do a whole lot in that round, so we'll give it to Ward. Whereas the rounds that Kovalev took were very, very obvious for me. I think that for Ward, we've seen Ward fight a lot better than that. I'm not sure whether you can just put that all down to Kovalev. Whether Ward, like my big question going into it was Ward as good a fighter as he was post Carl Froch? Was he on that level? And he was still very good, but I don't think he's as good as he has been.
So the thing is, I haven't even checked the punch stats because I don't really care about them. But as the fight wore on, Kovalev was landing short with his jab. He was following Ward around the ring. He was missing. It was missing a lot, and I don't know whether it was just the fact that it felt like watching it. I haven't watched it back, but Ward was throwing less shots but landing more. And I thought at times he made Kovalev look really basic. I mean, here's a question for you guys. Who have you learnt more about out of that fight, Kovalev or Ward?
Could you say neither? I think not. Yeah.
I think we learned a bit about Ward. I mean, that was a devastating start for him. If you look at those first 2 rounds, that was shocking. And to bring himself back into that fight, I thought it was really, really impressive. And I think you got to look at Kovalev. I mean, what did he actually do after that knockdown? He fought like a man, just expecting the knockout to come. He didn't vary his work. When he got inside, he was the one doing all the holding. Ward was the one who was trying to work. He was just headhunting. He wasn't really varying his shots. And also at the end of the fight, he sort of said, "Next time I'm going to kick his ass." And I think we've heard comments from Kathy Duber saying, "Next time, next time, next time." So they kind of almost intimating that maybe they could have done more. He faded a bit down the stretch. I actually was less impressed now than I was before, personally.
I just think people were scoring rounds for Ward because it's that thing, he'd done less badly than he'd done before. He wasn't winning a round, he just wasn't as bad as he was the round before that.
But if either or is nicking around, does it make any difference?
It doesn't, but if there's fucking like 7 or 8 rounds that are all close, 7 of the rounds that are all close, and 2 of the judges give all of them to one guy is suspicious.
I think the issue is, I know you guys talked about it already, so I won't rattle on, and thanks for having me on. But I think maybe the issue, I didn't check the scorecards. It was only after everyone was crying on Twitter for like 36 hours that those scorecards don't look right to me, especially the last. Was it one judge give 1 round to Kovalev after the last 6 rounds? That's not right. That don't sit right with me at all. But I don't care. My boy won, so.
I asked all the other lads, and I'll ask you: do you want to see a rematch?
Absolutely, 100%. I think before the fight, a lot of people were mincing, going, "It's going to be a shit fight," and I just couldn't get my head around that either because it's the best fight and the best. It don't make no difference if it's a bad fight. We moan all the time about we want to see the best fight the best, and we got it, and people are mincing about it being a bad fight. I definitely want to see a rematch.
I agree with that. I put press pass right for that.
Yeah, I was on the edge of my seat the whole fight because especially after that second round knockdown, it was like, this could just explode at any time. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see a rematch. There has to be a rematch. We should demand a rematch. But I don't think
if it's competitive, you're right. And that's what I point. So Mayweather Pacquiao was the 2 best fighters in the division. I don't want to see it again because it was a complete one-sided shutout for one fighter. So I want to. So it makes sense to do a rematch in a fight that was as close as that. My only thing I said was I'm thinking, I know it won't happen, but for me, I'd watch Kovalev Stevenson over Kovalev Ward 2. Like if I had a choice right now, what's my next fight? That's the fight I'd pick.
Do we want to give Stevenson a payday though?
No, we don't. But in terms of a fight, I always thought that was such an explosive style clash. I don't think that Stevenson's a good enough boxer to be able to keep Kovalev off him, but he hits hard enough to hurt him. I think that was the obvious fight that I wanted to see. I'm not sure if there's any fights for Andre Ward that immediately stick out to me over that. But yeah,
Paul Smith rematch maybe.
Well, to be fair, the Paul Smith fight actually is really quite telling of Andre Ward and just his style in general. Paul Smith, the guy who's been stopped by De Gale, banjoed by George Groves in 2 rounds, and Ward was quite happy to break him down for 7 or 8 rounds. He didn't. Kovalev would have stopped Paul Smith in 2 rounds.
But who cares? It's all about styles make fights. I don't understand why. Why that's a problem for anyone. He's a great technician, Ward. He's an excellent fighter, and the more we see him, the better. I know Paul Smith's absolute garbage, but I don't know why people give him such a hard time for just being a bit mechanical. And it was a long beat down as well. What's great about it? He took a 7 to 9 round beating, did he?
Yeah, it's commendable that he got
Right,
well paid
Macho,
to get his head
my
battered.
last question to you is: you want to see the rematch? Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think Ward wins again, and do you think he wins easier than he did this time?
I'm going to say yes. I don't think he does anything too different to what he done the first time. I think it's Kovalev the one that will change his game plan because, as I said, he was fairly basic in there. Yes, I do think he wins a rematch, but it might be a bit like Groves and Fox too again because the fight changed because of the knockdown in the second round. A bit like the Groves fight, Groves and Fox. The knockdown just changed the whole fight, so we might see a completely different fight this time. But yeah, no, I'd fancy Ward to beat him again, yeah, and probably beat him easier this time. I think he was a bit scared. He fought a bit nervous for the first half of the fight. So yeah, no, I do think he'd win again. What was the general consensus for you guys?
I said earlier on, I agree. I think Ward wins easier, and I picked him the first time. I didn't want him to win because he's a dick, but I picked him and he won.
Is it because he loves Jesus?
No, I got no problem with Jesus, mate. No problem with him at all.
Right.
But I just think Ward's a dickhead. Simple as that.
Have I missed any? Sorry to butt in again. Have I missed any Hearn slagging? His latest interview. Have I missed all that?
We did.
Yeah,
you can have a quick minute on it if you want.
Nah, it's all right. If you was already rambled on about it, then I won't.
Right. Si, before you go, I want to ask you one more thing. This is what I wanted to ask you earlier on. What the fuck is going on with Josh Warrington and Steve Wood, the Sanagars and Selby? Can you enlighten us with this situation at all?
Be a bit more specific for me.
There was an interview, wasn't there, after Selby's fight, Andrew Selby's fight.
Yeah.
Selby did a video interview with IFL about the Warrington fight and why it's not happening and whatnot. And then Warrington called him a cabbage and he was offered the fight. And then Hearn got into it with Cal about they didn't have enough time to prepare because he was getting married. But then he managed to fight Amagasa. Do you want to tell us what actually happened there, if you can? I understand if you can't because you're a bit close to the situation.
What when the original offer was made?
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit behind. So I've not really spoke to Josh. So I can't say what's going on this at the minute. Be honest with you, I think they're just starting the hype now for setting it up early doors at Ellen Road next year. That's what I'm reading into it. So last year there was an offer made from Selby to Josh Warrington for the fight, and Josh basically said no. It was around the date of the wedding, the honeymoon, whatever it was. He turned the fight down. He said, "No, that's I've got wedding, I've got commitments, I've got stag do, not a stag do. I've got the honeymoon, I've got all that." So then what happened was, I think it was an earlier date. Eddie basically told, who do I want to say he told? Let's say he spoke with Steve Wood, I think, and basically just said that he needed somebody to headline a show in Yorkshire because they had a number of Yorkshire fighters who they wanted to get out. To get on a show. So Steve said, "Well, what kind of opponent are we looking at?" So I think Steve this was before he spoke to Joe. I think Steve was going to be happy to kind of take it, and as long as the opponent was basically going to be a bit of a pudding, someone they could knock over.
Found that.
They come back with Highland. I don't think Steve was too keen on it, and I don't think Josh was too keen on it. But in order to keep the peace and to keep everybody happy, they kind of took the fight, they took the date, and then obviously it looks like, to people looking at it, looks like Josh had ducked Selby, and then I'm not going to defend Josh. I had me say on Josh, I've changed my stance on it a little bit, so I'm just going to call it as I see it. So basically, he got offered the Selby fight at a later date. He said no because of the wedding and everything else. Then he got, I wouldn't say told, but he got asked in a persuasive manner to headline the Leeds Arena show, which Coyle and Nurse boxed on. And that's about it basically.
So there's nothing to it then, really, that he did duck him. You still think the fight happens?
It's 100% the fight happens. 100% the fight happens because you look at Selby, where is he? What's he doing? And then you look at Leeds, and you look at Josh Warrington. I'm not going to be critical of Josh, but if you look at, I think even the Leeds fans, they're a bit. Last year it just started. Highland was a bit like Amagasa. Just in terms of the event, and they need something different now just to keep the Leeds fans bought into the Josh Warrington events. So that's why I think it happens at Ellen Road. I think it's got to happen.
Just quickly, what do you guys think about that fight? Because I know Warrington gets a lot of shit, but I don't think that's a walk in the park for Selby at all. I think Warrington will give that a right good go. I think that's a really, really good fight.
I don't think Selby makes anything look that necessarily easy just because of his style. I think that he certainly doesn't blow Warrington away. But I think that he should win the fight clearly. I think Warrington has been very, very well matched for the most part. I've been to Leeds for a few of the shows, and he's been in with opponents that have either sort of been designed for his sort of style, or when he was in with Amagasa, that was a good comparison fight compared to what Amagasa obviously did when he fought over in Japan. But I don't think he's, from a boxing standpoint, anywhere near Selby's level. Josh Warrington gets a lot of stick. However, he's actually a really nice guy. It's not his fault that his fans are the way they are. And the fact that he's got that fan base means that he will pull Selby in. And the point I think that in that division, is there an easier route is there a better route to a world title that he's going to win than Lee Selby? Who else did he beat who holds a belt in that division? Probably none of them. And I would say that Selby is the easier option out of the ones that are available. It's still a very tough fight.
With Josh Warrington, there's two things that kind of stumped Josh, and I blame Eddie for both of them. So and this isn't defending Josh, but the first one was, he said this is the best crowd in British boxing. It's better than it used to be for Hatton in Manchester. I've been to both. It isn't. It's a good crowd, and it's probably the best that we get over here now. It's similar to Frampton in Belfast, where I know the different fans. I know it's football fans, and then you're talking boxing fans. And the other thing that Eddie shot Josh in the foot was he was bigging up the Selby fight too soon. He should have let Josh keep developing. Like you mentioned, the Amagaska fight, the Brunker fight was a good fight. Steve Wood taking that fight as an opponent and stuff like that, but they just Eddie. It's like everything. He hypes these guys up and puts them on a platform, and then eventually, after 2 or 3 fights, I think Josh has been well matched, but I also think he's had for how much he gets a lot of stick, he's had decent opponents. Highland. Alan was a decent opponent,
and he's come up the more traditional route as well, hasn't he?
He has. He went down to Wally, beat Sammy and Munir in back garden, and then he went and stopped Rendell Monroe. I know Monroe has been recycled a little bit, but yeah, just for Eddie, just shut up and let it build, let it simmer the right way. But
anyway, Si, on that note, we can end it by saying Eddie Earn's a cunt, and thank you all for listening.
I'd like to distance myself from that comment because
feel free, but he is a cunt.
You need to get me back on next time for the Herne Hake, because I'm gutted I missed all that.
We will get you in early.
We almost got through 88 minutes without dropping the C-bomb.
Who said the first one?
No, you did.
Oh, I'm sure I said it before.
Oh well.
We off now?
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, we're done.
Cool.
We are.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You missed the Mike Tyson thing.
Oh yeah, we
shit.
forgot about all that.
We can do that next week.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Maybe.
That deserves a good half hour.
Fuck's sake, man! What's going on? Oh, right. Cheers, lads.
Cheers, everyone. Andre Wall, pound number 1. Later.